Hey, what's up? Hope everyone's doing okay. So this is week 12. We're on week 12 right now, the readings, and it's Samuel 4 through Samuel 23. And so, this first and second Samuel, and I enjoy Samuel. I'm going to enjoy all of it. But, Samuel, it's about, a lot of it's about David and Saul. And I pretty sure Solomon's got to be in there too in Second Samuel. I'm pretty sure, but it's all about the kings. But it's interesting because Samuel's like the prophet, and so he's like in charge of everything, or he's like the judge, and I think he's the judge as well. But he's like the prophet. I'm not sure exactly he's the judge. I'm pretty sure he judged over Israel too. Um, but it's called. It's not called David, or it's not called Saul, or it's not called Solomon. It's called um it's called Samuel because he's God's prophet, and so he's like the one that's kind of overseeing everything and everything that's happening. And he's one that kind of breaches a lot of these things, but he doesn't go into. He's not alive during. I don't think he's alive during. So, I don't know if maybe he's during. I guess he is alive during Solomon's birth because he tells David, what happens, what God's going to do to him because of what he did to Uriah. And so it's just interesting because Samuel was breaching all this stuff, and so when I was just reading it, I just finished reading it right now, and I was kind of going over it throughout the week. It's just kind of the transition between Israel being the judges and Israel being into the kings. And man, there's just a lot of battles with the Philistines. Man, the Philistines this, the Philistines that. There seems to be like this huge battle between God, who is like the God of the correct God, and then the deceivers, or the non gods, or the gods with the lowercase g, the ones that don't really have the power. So you have like this huge battle between Israel and the Philistines, and also between the Israelites choosing the Philistine ways. And I'm curious if a lot of the Philistines came over to the Jewish side and chose the God of Israel. And I think a lot of people in the whole world saw what God was doing, and so they came to be Jewish and to abide in His laws and His rules. So on Monday, the main theme that I have was the Ark of the Covenant was taken, and so there was a battle, and Eli's sons, I forget their names, but they brought the Ark of the Covenant to the battle, and I think they were fighting the Philistines, and they lost the battle, and the Ark of the Covenant was taken, and then it was taken by the Philistines, and then the Philistines had the Ark of the Covenant, and they brought it to their cities, and like they had all these horrible things happen to them, and their god. I don't remember which one it was, but like they had a statue of him, and then they brought the Ark of the Covenant in there. Like it fell at nighttime, and then they got emerods, or emeroids, or hemorrhoids, or whatever they call it, and they you were like, oh crap, God did this to us, and so they sent it back. But it's just interesting that they took the Ark of the Covenant, and then when they brought the Ark of the Covenant to like a city or something, then the people like looked at the Ark of the Covenant, and like 50,000 of them died when they brought it back to Israel. So the Ark of the Covenant is like a huge thing. It's a place where it symbolized, or was where God dwelt, but it like symbolized God a lot. And so they took it, they lost it, and a lot of people died, and then Eli's children died. And then when they heard about it, Eli died, and then one of Eli's sons' wife, when she heard about it, she died, but then her child lived, I think. And so it was just this huge event when the Ark of the Covenant was taken. They brought it to the camp. Like, oh, we're going to celebrate. We're going to win this battle. The Ark of the Covenant's here. And they lost anyways. And just because God was seen to have been departed from Israel because of the choices and the sins that they made. But he wasn't going to be with the Philistines either. And so the Philistines took it, and they got wrecked by having it. They gave it back. And then when they gave it back, they brought it to a city. When the people of the city looked upon it, they all died. And so they eventually got it back to the Israelites. But it's a trip. Nobody really wanted the Ark of the Covenant because it was just like this huge responsibility, and whenever anybody had it, they messed up a lot how they used it, and God punished them greatly. So it was very interesting. The Ark of the Covenant in general, and when it was taken, was very interesting. And then Tuesday, I have the children of Israel asked for a king, and so the children of Israel asked for a king, and God said, you can't have a king, you need to have judges. But like, no, we want kings like the people around us. And God's like, if you have a king, he's going to take your wives, he's going to make servants out of them, he's going to take your men, he's going to make servants out of them, and he's going to take all your food and give it to his servants and the people that he likes. But they still wanted this, and so God's told them that they rejected him, and God was their king, and so they don't want God to be their king anymore, and so they wanted a man to be king over them, like everyone around them. So God makes very displeased, and you see this over and over again about how God always talks about how he's very displeased, and how the Egyptians, ever since he took them out of Egypt, they've been nothing but like stiff-necked and rebellious people. So although God helps them, and they turn to God a lot, they really just seem to rebel a lot, and they make a lot of mistakes over and over and over again. And you just see this theme, and for whatever reason, they just can't seem to get it correctly. And then for Wednesday, I have Saul. And so, I was thinking about this on Wednesday. I was going over it, and it's like, okay, I wonder if Saul's in heaven, Saul or not in heaven, I guess, but waiting for judgment in paradise, what we consider paradise. But that's not necessarily heaven, just because, you know, Jesus says that he talked to the people, or the guy next to him that got crucified, and said, today we'll be in paradise. But paradise isn't necessarily heaven. It doesn't say we'll be in heaven, we'll be in paradise. People seem to connect the two, but there's nowhere in the Bible that says that paradise is heaven. And, so paradise can just be like kind of a waiting place, and then we consider it like this beautiful place, like, oh, that must be paradise, it must be like this great place, it must be heaven. But that's just like a modern change of the word paradise, what it was originally meant in the Bible, I think. And so, everything I think in modern history and modern academia, and everything that we kind of have around us is meant to turn people away from God, and to change the way that what God's message is to his people, and change little things, and or things like this, and to make it seem like it's something that it's not, in order to give like an incorrect view of reality, or incorrect view of the Bible. And if you just listen to the people around you, or if you listen to like the religious authority, I think you often get an incorrect view of religion and morality, and the correct view of reality. And so, I was thinking, is Saul in heaven? I was like, oh yeah, they must, or not in heaven, but like in paradise. Like, I wonder if Saul and David are just like kind of getting along, because after everything that happened. But Saul killed all those people, that all those priests that housed David. And I was thinking about that. And I'm like, man, that's a horrible thing to do. I don't know if he's made to heaven. I don't even know if he's a good person. I have it as someone to go over on one of the days, but the Bible has him in there, and so I think it's still an important day to go over. But I mean, I was thinking about on the calendar, like, do you really want to have anybody that's evil like that to be on the calendar? And I don't know. I'm up for negotiation, and I'm up to thinking about these kind of things, but I just don't know. Excuse me, I just don't know. And but it's something that I kind of maybe I need to think about, and maybe spend some time thinking about Saul, and because then he also got like that communion with that lady that communes with spirits, and brought up um, Samuel from from wherever he was at the underworld, and talked to him. And so he got like this did this evil thing, and Saul did a lot of evil things after he was God's anointed. And I don't really know if he is in God's grace, or like God loves him, or he makes it to heaven or not. Seems to be some pretty atrocious acts, especially killing all the priests, or telling somebody to kill all the priests. I just feel like that's a pretty atrocious thing to do. So I was just thinking about it, and like, maybe it's on my calendar because something that I need to think about, and I need to reflect on, and understand more about these characters, or these people in the Bible, and this history that happened, and where they've gone wrong, and just have a better understanding. So that's Saul. And then Thursday is Johnathan. Johnathan was Saul's son, and he had a lot of battles, or not. I don't know if he had a lot of battles, but he seemed to be in a lot of battles. And he had the one where he just like smote a lot of the Philistines by himself, him and his armor bearer, and he had a lot of faith in God. And he and David were like kind of kindred spirits. They seemed to have a bromance going on. And it says several times that Johnathan loved David like his own soul. And so Johnathan really loved David a lot, and they had like a really strong bond, especially after David slew Goliath. That's kind of where their bond started beginning. And it's just really interesting, Johnathan in general, like, because he had like he was supposed to be like he's supposed to be next in command, but then David was supposed to be like, kind of like the one that's kind of usurping Saul's authority. And the people saw this, but Johnathan didn't seem to care. At least the Bible depicted him as not really caring, because he just loved David so much. And he just really trusted him, and knew that God was with him, and seemed to know that God was with him. And so, but I think Johnathan is a somebody that's worth kind of celebrating, worth thinking about. He seemed to do really well, and he's not even really talked about too much in modern day Christianity. At least I don't really hear him talked about at all. But I just think that he was a really kind of an unsung hero in a lot of things, in a lot of events that he did. And he saved David, I think, a few times, and he was just gives a lot of um, I think is a lot of faith into David and what David was doing. So I think Jonathan was a pretty awesome character, a pretty awesome man that lived in a really strong man of God, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit. And I don't think that he's necessarily given the credit, at least in modern day Christianity, that he deserves. And then on Friday today is David. So I thought about David a lot. I think about David a lot already as it is. And obviously, slaying Goliath was a huge thing, but he just did so much. Like he just did so much. He made a lot of mistakes, I think, but the Bible is just full of events that happened when he was king or before he was king and when he was young. And they always talk about the Goliath and slaying Goliath. The thing that always comes into mind with me though is when he numbered the people and the angel came and killed like so many of them. And then he talked to God and said, it's not the people's fault, but this angel came and just killed a lot of a lot of the Jews. And this event just seems really just intense for me, just because the idea of an angel coming down and just warring against the people. I mean, what would that entail? And this is a different time. If that was something that something that happened, but it's not something that history even takes into account. And so that's one reason that today's history, or the society, at least in America, history is so flawed, and academia's view of reality is so flawed because it doesn't give any account to anything that happened in the Bible, or give it any weight or any credibility. And so I think that just shows you how much reality or history is kept away from reality. And it seems like history events, stuff like that, and in movies and stuff like that, they just like take a lot of events in the Bible and they just change it around a little bit and count it as for like history or a movie or something. And so they just like take these events that happen and take credit for it and to put it into like their series. So or put into their history. So there's like a shred of truth there. And that's why people believe it, because these events did happen. They just didn't happen to these people and the way that they perceive them. And so I just think that academia seems to do that quite a lot. And so, it was an interesting week. I just, it's the week 12, so, a dozen weeks in now, so about 3 months, or, what would be equivalent to about 3 months in. I guess, yeah, about 3 months. But obviously, not every month's got 21 days, so a little less than 3 months, or just 12 weeks, whatever. But so we're getting through there. We're getting to the parts, getting to the, a lot of interesting. There's a lot happened, obviously, in the very beginning. A lot happens in every book of the Bible, every page of the Bible. There's just quite a bit that's going on there. And so just reading it, I'm trying to learn from it. I'm learning more, and I like doing this study and just going through it chronological from beginning to the end, because I feel like you really get a lot of information and you get a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily get it when you skip around. So this chronological order is really good, and then taking things piece by piece and just kind of remembering things and reflecting on it and then reflecting on it again and again and again, and just getting more each time and kind of building on my knowledge of the Bible and what God has and wants me to know in my heart. So I feel like it's been beneficial to me, and it's been educational, and I just continue to learn and continue to grow. So I hope everyone's doing okay. God bless, and happy truth seeking.